Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for something that might feel a little bit like deja vu, but with a serious futuristic twist.
hmm
Valve is back in the living room console game.
That's right.
We are diving deep into the announcement of their new Steam machine.
And, for you, the listener, our mission today is really important.
Mm.
We have to approach this with a healthy dose of skepticism that's grounded in the sources.
Yeah.
We're not just going to read you the press release. We're going to slice through the hype and really understand the tech specs, where this thing actually sits in the market, and critically, where Valve had to make some compromises.
Because let's just get the elephant out of the room right away. We have been here before.
Oh, yeah.
The first Steam machine back in 2014 was, let's just say it was uneven.
That's a diplomatic way to put it.
But this time, Valve is coming out swinging. The big claim, the one that really defines this whole deep dive, is that this new console is over 6 times more powerful than the Steam Deck.
And the goal behind that power.
4K resolution, 60 frames per second. But of course, with the help of upscaling.
That 6 times number is the key.
Yeah.
That's the metric we're going to be testing today because it defines the whole purpose of this thing, which is bringing high-end, no-compromise PC gaming to the biggest screen in your house without, needing a giant desktop tower humming away in the corner.
Okay, so let's unpack the device itself. Let's draw that crucial line in the sand between then and now. What exactly is the Steam Machine version 2.0?
Fundamentally, it's a dedicated box for your living room, a console-style device.
Right.
It runs SteamOS, and its one and only job is to deliver that colossal Steam library, tens of thousands of games, straight to your TV.
All through a simple, console-like interface. It's the opposite of a fiddly PC setup.
Exactly.
And we absolutely have to emphasize that history lesson because anyone who was paying attention a decade ago remembers the disappointment. The 2014 Steam machines were this fragmented mess of third-party boxes, all with different specs, running an early version of SteamOS that had major compatibility problems.
And what's so fascinating now is you can see they learned from that. The sources are crystal clear on this point.
What's that?
This is a single piece of hardware designed by Valve, top to bottom.
Right. One box.
One box. Announced late 2025, aiming for an early 2026 release. They're controlling the whole hardware stack this time.
Which, in theory, should mean way better optimization.
A much more consistent user experience, yeah.
And speaking of the hardware design, I was surprised by the form factor. For the kind of power they're claiming, it's tiny.
It really is. The sources describe it as this very compact, cube-shaped console.
How compact are we talking?
About 160 millimeters per side. So what's that, like 6.3 inches? It's designed to just blend in, to disappear under your TV.
That's pretty impressive engineering because you're putting it right next to a Series X or a PS5 in terms of size, but with what are basically PC-grade parts inside.
And that compact design is the perfect jump-off point for us to get into the really interesting stuff.
The tech deep dive. Let's talk about the engine they crammed in that little box because this is where it gets really interesting for the performance nerds out there.
Let's start with the brain of the whole operation, the CPU.
Okay.
We're looking at a semi-custom AMD Zen 4 chip.
And for those less familiar, Zen 4 is AMD's latest and greatest high-efficiency, high-performance stuff.
Exactly. This one has 6 cores and 12 threads, and it can boost up to about 4.8 gigahertz.
See, 6 cores at almost 5 gigahertz that's substantial.
It is.
When you put that next to the 4 Zen 2 cores in the Steam Deck, you immediately see where a big chunk of that 6 times more powerful claim is coming from. It's just raw processing grunt.
Absolutely. And the other side of that coin, the graphics, is just as important.
What's it packing?
A semi-custom AMD RDNA 3 solution. This one has 28 compute units.
And just for context, the Steam Deck is running on RDNA 2 with only 8 compute units.
Right. So this RDNA 3 chip is the component that's really supposed to be doing the heavy lifting for 4K gaming, even if it is upscaled.
And what about the memory and storage, the supporting cast, so to speak?
Well, they look pretty solid. You've got 16 gigs of high-speed DDR5 RAM.
Which feels like a good baseline for a hybrid device like this.
It's a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And for storage, it looks like they're acknowledging how massive modern games are.
Thank goodness.
You get 2 NVMe SSD options,
Wow.
a 512 gig model, which is okay, or a much more practical 2 terabyte option.
And that fast storage is key for keeping load times down, making that whole SteamOS interface feel snappy.
For sure. And connectivity-wise, you can tell they haven't forgotten its PC roots. It's loaded.
Like what?
USB-C, a bunch of standard USB-A ports, a micro SD slot, which is a nice carryover from the deck, and then you've got your video out.
HDMI, I assume.
HDMI 2.0 for your standard TV, but also DisplayPort 1.4, which is a huge deal if you want to use it with, say, a high refresh rate gaming monitor.
Oh, that's a smart move.
Plus, you've got all the modern wireless stuff. Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3. They pretty much make sure you can plug anything into it.
Okay, this brings us to the part where we really need to slow down. The upside and the catch.
Right.
Let's start with the positives. Why should you, the listener, even care about this new box?
I think the upside is really about freedom and simplicity.
How so?
It finally bridges that gap. It delivers real PC gaming performance with that massive versatile Steam library right into the living room.
And it's all navigated through a simple interface.
Right. For the millions of people whose main gaming home is Steam, this is a plug-and-play box that just lets them keep their library, keep their progress, and play on the couch.
And the specs are finally built for a big screen. I mean, the Steam Deck is amazing for what it is, but trying to play it on a 70-inch 4K TV, you're really pushing its limits.
You are. This machine promises to handle that scenario much more gracefully.
Plus, you still get all the PC flexibility, right? Modding, Steam Workshop.
All of it. You can connect any controller you want, or a keyboard and mouse. That mix of console convenience and PC versatility is the one thing the big consoles just can't offer.
Okay, flip the coin. Every shiny spec sheet hides a compromise.
Always.
And our sources point to one major, glaring watch-out. What's the one technical detail that could be this machine's Achilles heel in a couple of years?
It all comes down to the VRAM, the dedicated graphical memory.
We said the GPU was a powerful RDNA3 chip.
It is, but it's only got 8 gigabytes of dedicated GDDR6 VRAM.
Wait, hold on. 8 gigs?
8 gigabytes.
For a machine being sold as a 4K device launching in 2026, that sounds incredibly tight. We're already seeing AAA games today push past 10, even 12 gigs at 1440p.
Exactly. This is the crucial detail we have to unpack. The sources literally say this 8 gigs might limit future AAA games at highest settings, especially at 4K.
So what happens when a game wants more than 8 gigs?
Well, as developers push things like 8K textures or demanding ray tracing, that VRAM usage just skyrockets. If the game needs more VRAM than the card has, the system has to start shuffling that data back and forth with a slower system RAM.
Which means stuttering, texture pop-in, all the stuff that ruins the experience.
Precisely. So even if the RDNA3 compute units can handle the raw math for 4K, that limited memory might force you to dial down the texture quality settings to, medium or low.
That is a major trade-off.
It's a very clear hardware compromise, probably to keep the cost and the size down. And it leads us straight into the second big catch.
The 4K 60 frames per second promise.
The fine print on that promise.
Because it all hinges on upscaling tech.
Heavily. The 4K 60 target is achieved through what the sources are calling aggressive upscaling, specifically AMD's FSR.
Fidelity FX Super Resolution. So for you, the listener, what that means is the game is actually being drawn at a lower resolution.
Right, maybe 1440p or sometimes even 1080p.
And then FSR, this clever algorithm, intelligently reconstructs that image to make it look like it's 4K.
So when you see 4K 60 on the box, what it really means is something like 1440p 60 with a very fancy filter.
Is that entirely honest, though? Calling an upscaled image 4K?
Well, that's the big marketing question, isn't it?
Yep.
FSR is getting incredibly good, but it is not the same as native resolution.
So the raw native 4K performance on demanding games is going to be a lot lower than 60 fps?
Almost certainly. It's an exercise in smart software reconstruction, not raw hardware muscle.
And on top of all these technical limits, we have the huge market questions. We still don't have a price.
And that's everything. If this thing is priced like a PS5 or an Xbox, it's a genuine contender.
But if it starts creeping up towards gaming PC prices?
Its appeal shrinks very, very quickly. And there's still that optimization question. This is a PC console hybrid running on Linux.
Right. It's not a closed box like a PlayStation. It's still dependent on drivers and developers making sure their games run well on this specific hardware.
That optimization problem is exactly what killed the 2014 effort. If the stability and compatibility aren't flawless, the specs don't matter.
A lesson Valve absolutely cannot afford to forget this time around.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, let's zoom out. Segment 4, market positioning. If we tie all this together, the high power, the small box, the very specific compromises, what does this all mean for the console market?
I think what's fascinating here is that Valve is signaling a really serious ambition.
To do what?
They're positioning themselves as more than just a handheld company now.
Yeah.
This is a direct shot. They want to be a full-on living room console competitor going after the big guys.
So they want to own the whole spectrum from your pocket to your sofa.
Exactly. And their biggest weapon isn't the hardware.
It's the ecosystem. It's Steam.
Precisely. Their entire pitch relies on the fact that you, the listener, probably already own 100 games on Steam.
So there's no buy-in for a new library.
None. If they get the price right and the software support is strong, especially that FSR implementation, this can be a real problem for the traditional console makers. It offers a library and a flexibility that they just can't match.
It kind of bypasses the whole exclusives war by just giving you access to the entire history of PC gaming.
Pretty much. And just to nail down that timeline again for everyone.
We're looking at a launch window of early 2026.
Right. Just enough time to build on the hype from the deck, but probably before the next major console cycle really kicks into gear.
Okay, so let's try to summarize the core takeaway for you, the listener. What we have here is Valve rolling out a very powerful, very compact PC that's trying to bridge that gap between console simplicity and PC freedom. It's promising the moon with 4K 60 performance, but we now know that promise is, well, it's conditional. It's leaning really hard on upscaling tech, and it's dealing with a pretty tight 8 gigabyte VRAM limit.
It's a really compelling idea built on some impressive parts, but those two specific compromises, the VRAM and the FSR dependency, that's where this whole project will either succeed or fail.
Yeah.
And this raises a final, really important question, something for you to think about while we wait for the price. Given that its biggest performance claim, that 4K goal, rests so heavily on software tricks like upscaling, and on developers carefully managing that 8 gigabyte VRAM limit, does the fate of this new Steam machine ultimately rest more on the quality of Valve's software?
You mean on things like SteamOS, the drivers, how good their FSR looks?
Exactly. Does it rest more on that software optimization than it does on the raw horsepower they managed to squeeze into that little box?
The software has to carry the hardware across the finish line. That's a fascinating thought. We'll definitely be following this as more details, especially that price finally drop. Until next time,